Good evening. Welcome to this series on the 7 factors of awakening. We are still going through the module on cultivating effortless mindfulness. So I'm Wai Chong. And the last few sessions, I have touched on the definition of mindfulness, how some of us may define mindfulness. But in a nutshell, I think we can very simply regard mindfulness as a very particular way of paying attention, and paying attention in such a way that sometimes there are certain characteristics to this way of paying attention. Often what is emphasized is that it's related to the present moment, coming back to here and now, to what is real, what is actually happening in our life. To do so with an attitude of non-judgment. Non-judgment here simply means not jumping to conclusion, not following our own bias and prejudice, and try to be open-minded and try to be curious, to discover for ourselves what is actually happening. And lastly, there is quite often mindfulness is related to paying attention in a very purposeful way or with certain specific intention, not in a sort of haphazard way. And also, as part of the definition of mindfulness, another characteristic is that when we are mindful of something, we are able to allow whatever it is we are attending to come into the foreground of our awareness, so that it's almost like instead of in the background, we bring it forward, or it come to the foreground, and we are able to pay close attention to it, and therefore it facilitates our ability to notice the details, to see clearly, to see or clearer, so to speak. Yeah, this is roughly just a bit of in terms of what is mindfulness. This particular way of paying attention that we all have. It's a natural ability, and sometimes it is invoked naturally just by depending on the circumstances and the conditions. We naturally pay mindful attention in certain contexts. Yeah, so it's not an ability that we need to somehow, as if we never have it, and therefore we need to newly generate it, newly create it. We all have this ability to be mindful. It's just a matter of becoming more familiar with it, strengthening these particular habits, this particular way of paying attention, so that we are able to do so for our own benefits as well as to benefit others. And I'll also introduce out of what we usually call the 4 placements or 4 ways of applying mindfulness, 4 placement of mindfulness, sometimes called 4 foundation of mindfulness, because we are paying attention to different aspects of our experiences. So there is mindfulness of body, where the emphasis is on returning attention primarily to our own body. Of course, as we know ourselves better, as we look at other people's body, we also have greater awareness and understanding. Right? So a mindfulness of body, which lead to mindfulness of feelings. In this case, mindfulness of pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or neutral feelings. Pleasant feelings can be like, there's a whole range of pleasant feelings, a whole range of pleasures that we human beings experience, and that we can be mindfully aware of. They are from really intense pleasure, peak experiences, to really mild, just comfortable feeling a little bit more relaxed, more at ease. So there's a big long range. And likewise with unpleasant sensations, there is also a huge range from excruciating pain to just mild discomfort. And so-called neutral, it's not really neutral, but it's just that there are also experiences that we have, sensations that we do feel, but we cannot quite easily categorize that as pleasant or unpleasant. And so this goes into this third basket of neither pleasant nor unpleasant sensations. Yeah. Feelings in particular are very powerful. A lot of our behavior, a lot of the way we think, the way we react, we behave, are conditioned on feelings. We have a very strong conditions on feeling. We may have a lot of instinctive craving for comfort, the term comfort zone, and we tend to stay in the comfort zone. That just goes to show how powerful feelings are in influencing our behavior, our habits, yeah? And how difficult it is to step out of the comfort zone, to encounter what is uncomfortable, unsettling, disturbing, even painful. Yeah? And so here you can see the power of feelings, and therefore it is also an important aspect of our experience to bring mindful awareness, to learn about ourselves, to learn how we ourselves relate to feelings, what sort of habits we have acquired in our life, how are we conditioned in relation to them. Some of us are conditioned in such a way that we make our choices, not uncommon to make our choices based on feelings. We only choose things that give us pleasant feelings. We stay far away from anything that would invoke unpleasant feelings. And in so doing, we create, unbeknown to us or unaware, we're not so aware, we place great limitations on ourselves, on our behavior, on what is possible for us. So there is definitely a very good reason to bring mindfulness to feelings. So body, feelings, and the third category that we have touched on is the mind, mindfulness of the mind. The mind is our consciousness, the realm of our thinking, the realm of imagination, the realm of our emotions, also our reactions to what's going on in our life, the emotional responses, the different choices that we make, and so on and so forth. So, in fact, these three, I have covered previously, they form a natural progression. If you start with cultivating mindfulness of body, especially in the way I present it, it is very natural from mindfulness of body for us to move on to mindfulness of feelings. In particular, I like to emphasize mindfulness of pleasant feelings, because the more we are aware of the body, as we return our attention to the body, we are aware of the body, it does have a natural ability to catalyze the release of tension, the release of unnecessary contractions or tightening. And as that release happens, there is a mild sense of pleasure that arises from what is been very tight and tense, and sometimes even numb, because the tension has been there for such a long time that it dull all the sensation. Then when the release happens, interesting sensation arises. Not necessarily all we would classify as pleasant, but definitely interesting. Then, of course, it does settle down to a feeling of comfort, of ease, because we are so much more relaxed as we release those contractions and tightenings. So mindfulness of body naturally lead to mindfulness of pleasant feelings. And as we encounter pleasant feelings, especially in the practice of mindfulness, in the meditative context, pleasant feelings, especially of this type, that is associated with the release of tension, the release of anxiety and agitations that bother us. As those release happen, the pleasures that come forth are very soothing in nature, very calming, soothing, very reassuring in nature. And when the mind or attention contacts such pleasant feelings, as that message comes through into our system, the whole system is in some way reassured. Everything is all right. So what happens? The body becomes even more at ease. It's more willing to release all the physiological reactions to stress, to danger, to difficulties. So the body settles down even more comfortably. And the mind might decide to let go of all those agitations, put them aside, because something nice is happening, something soothing and welcoming is happening within, and maybe everything is really all right. Then you just drop all those negative storylines, as it dwells on the pleasant sensations, as it is reassured, the mind also slows down. And this is precisely at the point where, as the mind slows down, we become more aware of what is happening within our own mind. We are more aware of how the mind might be influenced or impacted by different kinds of factors or reactions. So that's why after mindfulness of feelings come mindfulness of the mind itself. We are more in touch, we are more aware of what's going on. And so this form this kind of sequence of progression, and we can make use of it in meditative practice as a way to help us to settle body and mind. Settle the body by returning the attention to the body. It naturally helps to invoke our body's instinct. If we are able to convince our body there is no danger around, you don't have to be so tight and tense. There is no need to stay in this fight or flight mode. And when the body get the message, when it is reassured in that way, the body starts to reverse the whole process. It starts to undo all the defense and all the armoring and all everything, and start to release all these contraction and tensions and all the physiological changes that come as a result of a reaction to stress or danger. So as I undo that, we shift back to a more comfortable baseline state, right? And we are settling down our body. And as I described earlier on, this process inevitably is accompanied by pleasant sensation, pleasant feelings. Not some terribly exciting and spectacular pleasant feelings, very mild, very gentle, but nonetheless, the feelings that are very reassuring, feeling that say, oh, things are okay, I'm not in danger, I'm safe, therefore I can come out of that fight or flight mode, and just go back to baseline functioning, normal functioning states. And pleasant sensations that arise become another object of mindful awareness, and this helps to also reassure the mind. Mind takes a bit longer, and as we give attention to the mind, to what are the factors influencing our mind states in this moment, we become more in touch with the mind, right? And in the meditative context with mindfulness, we can learn to help the mind to come back to balance, come back to a more balanced state, by letting go of unnecessary agitation, excitation, distraction, the kind of ruminating, compulsive thinking that a lot of us are very familiar with when we are distressed, when we are upset, the kind of thinking, the agitation that can keep us awake at night, even though we have an important day the next day, important things happening the next day. So that agitation, we can learn to see whether we can calm that down. And otherwise, the opposite, the complete opposite is when the mind has too much energy. The mind has too little energy. We're feeling down, we're feeling discouraged, disappointed. We feel a sense of despair and desperation. We feel overwhelmed with helplessness and powerlessness. Not a very nice place to be. Everything is closing in, become heavier, darker, gloomier. The sinking mind. We can learn to uplift the mind. We can inject in a new source of energy. We can open things up. We can make things more spacious, more open, brighter. We can bring in a sense of buoyancy, to help the mind to feel lighter and more at ease instead of this sinking heaviness. So this is what I have covered up to this point. And I thought we can start by revisiting them in meditation practice. And just to do justice to the word effortless that I put in the title, we can also approach these three types of mindfulness, three domain or three application of mindfulness of body, of feeling, in particular pleasant feeling in this context, and mindfulness of the mind. And try to bring in conditions that support a more effortless way of applying mindfulness, or more effortless way of being mindful, so to speak. Instead of thinking of mindfulness and attention as a very narrow beam of attention, or spotlight that we need to exert a lot of effort, keep it on the object, and then shining on this, shining on that. I have previously recommended a different approach. Think of our awareness, attention as something much more spacious, much more present, and that its range is much wider, like a radar that is sweeping through a definite range, and anything that come into the radar automatically is detected, is known, is become aware of. So it's a much less directed approach, and doesn't involve so much effort in directing here and there your attention. Instead, it's more like sit back and be present, quiet down, be present, and just be open and receptive, to whatever is arising, whatever is happening, and allow that into awareness. And so I use quite often the analogy or the metaphor of listening, because among our physical senses, listening is one that is come closest to this idea of being present, being aware and open and aware, receptive, but that's far less direct. At least, we can't really turn our ears, no matter how hard we. I can move my ear a little bit, but there is no practical purpose, right? That muscular tension, as far as the ear is concerned, as far as hearing is concerned. In fact, hearing, listening best happens when we just settle down, sit back, quiet down if possible, at least, if not the mind, at least the mouth, stop talking, and just let in whatever that is happening. Effortless as in trying not to force. Maybe no need to try. Yeah, just don't force. Yeah, trying also implies a lot of effort sometimes. Yeah, trying to be mindful and trying to listen. Instead of trying, why not just have some faith in ourselves, in our own natural ability? And I'm going to invite you in this meditation to just test it out to see whether it's possible. Start with listening, settle back, be present, open, and see what happens. First to sound, or to the sound of my voice, and then bring the same mode of attention, awareness. Allow that to allow bodily sensations to also come into awareness, as if we are listening to the body. Listen to see what my body is trying to tell me, what my body has to say to me. Is my body very tired today? Is it very tense, very tight? Is my body feeling quite okay today, feeling quite relaxed, quite at ease? Let all these different sensations come into awareness. And then same, listening. As we are able to attend to the body, reconnect body and mind, as we are able to promote a certain degree of physical release, then we also listen and be aware of and welcome in pleasant sensations. There's a very mild, very faint, gentle, pleasant sensation, usually nothing spectacular. But when they arise, why not welcome them in? Why not allow ourselves to enjoy, this feels really nice, Tension in the face melt away. There is a sense of softness in one's own face, a sense of softness associated with ease and comfort. I can enjoy that. It doesn't last very long before we'll forget about it, but that's all right. When it's here, when we are aware of it, we enjoy it. Mindfulness of pleasant feelings. And the more we are able to do that, the more we are able to, in the field of our awareness, notice them. The more we are reassuring our system, body and mind, everything is all right in this moment. Yeah, maybe not the next moment, but at least in this moment, everything is fine. And then what happened is, naturally, without any effort on our part, we will find that more and more we are aware of our own mind, the state of the mind, the things that are happening in our mind, influencing our mind, affecting our mind, that come naturally into awareness. Of course, it might take a while, practice to really become very familiar with all these different steps and different aspects of mindfulness. But nonetheless, they are not difficult. They are not unnatural. And with the awareness, mindful awareness of the mind, then we afford an opportunity to change the conditions, to help the mind along. If the mind came across as very agitated, very upset, lots of energy, maybe in the form of a lot of ruminating thoughts or critical judgments and so forth, is it possible for us to just create a condition to just facilitate the release of those energy, the release of those thoughts, to help the mind, maybe create a condition for the mind to settle down, to slow down. And on the other hand, if we notice and become aware of the mind, come across as to us as very dark, very down, very low in energy, with a sinking feeling, is it possible to then create a condition to uplift the mind? So this is one way we can proceed, and we can find out for ourselves what sort of effect it has on our meditation, in our own experience. So let's do a practice together and explore these ideas that I have covered previously. So let's first settle our body in a suitable posture. A suitable posture is not necessarily the perfect posture. A suitable posture is the posture that is most appropriate for this session in this moment. So checking into the body, some of us might prefer to sit like what I'm doing, sitting upright in a chair. That's wonderful. You might find sitting on the floor very helpful, and if you are capable of doing it, sitting cross-legged, maybe on a cushion, by all means do that. Some of others may find it more comfortable to lie down on the back in the supine position. Then that's it. That's your suitable posture. So take a few moments and see if you can adjust your body and find that suitable posture for yourself as I ring the bell. So in the posture we have adopted, see if we can become aware first of the sensations coming through from the different touch points between body and seat, body and ground. See if we can tune into the sensations at these different points of contact, and allow ourselves, our body and mind, to notice that our body is resting on a surface, on the supports that come across as very solid, firm, and stable. And this provide our body with a good support, a sense of balance, hopefully, as well as a sense of safety. If we can convince our body that it is well supported with balance and safety, what will happen is, given time, the body can start to relax. It can start to loosen up. It feels okay to unwind. And in its own time, to let go of some of those unnecessary tightness and contractions that we may notice in different parts of our body. And when that happens, our body is actually slowly, gradually settling down, settling back, and become more and more comfortable in our posture. So resting our body in the meditation posture. Next, we are going to invite in mindful awareness, starting with mindful awareness of the body. But we're going to start with mindful awareness, not of bodily sensation, but of sounds, just to get our practice of mindfulness into the mode of listening, something much more open, spacious, and receptive, much less effortful, without any sense of forcing, any sense of having to exert a lot of effort to direct the attention, to control our attention. Instead, to just sit back, quiet down, and be open and present and listen. in the pause before another set of bells, see if we can settle back and listen. Be open to the sounds in your surrounding, the sound of my voice, without any effort on our part. Simply settle back here and now, open, receptive, and listen. Notice how effortless it is if a sound is to arise and enter into our awareness. We don't have to do anything at all, simply being present here. And as the next sets of bells arise, see if you can appreciate that spacious quality in awareness without any obstruction, without any effort, simply allowing sounds to come into our mindful awareness. And just as we listen and mindfully become aware of sounds, sounds that come into the range of your listening awareness, likewise, we are also able to be aware of other things, other experiences, such as the different bodily sensations. See if you can bring the same quality of attention, the same mode of awareness as listening into becoming mindfully aware of the different bodily sensations. As I guide you through the body, very briefly, without any effort, just a light touch, allow in sensations from the different parts of your own body, just as with sounds. Allow those sensations to come in for you to be aware, to listen in this time to your own body. Starting at the crown, we invite in and become aware of sensations at the crown. Some of us may notice tingling sensations at the crown, or slight feeling of pressure or pressing down, maybe a sense of warmth or coolness, or maybe nothing at all, which is totally and perfectly fine. And alongside the sounds, alongside sensations at the crown, maybe we can also let in sensations at the face, so that we become aware of how we feel at the face, whether are we unconsciously tensing up any of the facial muscles, tensions at the forehead, tensions in the muscles around the eyes, or maybe tensions in the muscles of the jaw. As some of those sensations come into awareness, is it possible for us gently to release those tension in the face? Releasing, relaxing the facial muscles, we welcome in a different set of feelings. Maybe a feeling of softness, of ease, of relaxation and comfort in our own face. We let in other sensations, sensations from the neck, the throat, the shoulders. We become aware of how this part of the body may be feeling. At any point of time, we notice unpleasant sensations, uncomfortable feelings, such as those in the shoulders, maybe. See if we can simply acknowledge them, acknowledge their presence, and just let them be for the moment. How about sensations from both arms? Will sensations from the arms come into our mindful awareness so that we notice the simple sensations in the upper arms, from both elbows, the forearms, as well as sensations in both hands, sensations from the palms, sensations at the back of the hands, sensations in the fingers, all the way to the fingertips. And now that both arms, sensations in both arms come into awareness, see if we can give permission and just allow both arms to rest their weight comfortably on their physical support. Throughout the meditation, we will find that our attention, our awareness will be drawn into thoughts, into thinking about past or future, some ongoing inner commentary, all which are totally normal. And just like any other things, we can allow them to come into awareness as well. Awareness of thoughts, of memories, of fantasies, awareness of ourselves, been lost in thoughts and so on. And now and then we readjust so that bodily sensations, sounds, things happening here and now can come back into the range of our awareness. For example, sensations from the chest, sensations associated with breathing, sensations at the back, at the upper back, or middle back. All these sensations can come into awareness. At any point of time, as we are aware of the different sensations, occasionally something nice happens. A slight feeling of pleasure, comfort, ease. When this come into awareness, see if we can allow ourselves to enjoy them while they're here. Enjoy and appreciate any pleasant feelings and sensations that arise within our meditation. How about sensations from our abdomen? Sensations from the level of the skin, the muscles, or maybe deep within the body, at the level of the organs. Sensations from the front of the body can come into awareness, and sensations from the back of the body can also come into our awareness. And as I mention it, you may become aware of the sensations at the pelvic region, sensations from the pelvis, the weight of the pelvis, as well as the upper body if we are sitting. And notice how the weight rests on their physical support, on our seat. And see if we can mentally give permission and release that weight, allow it to rest comfortably on its support. we can also allow sensations from both legs to come into awareness, probably sensations from the hips, the upper legs, sensations at both knees, sensations at the lower legs, the ankles, and the feet. All these different sensations in both legs can come into awareness. And as we are aware of them, we can also give permission and allow both legs to rest their weight comfortably on the floor or on whatever support they are on. So within mindful awareness, we allow the body to rest, to settle down comfortably into the posture, onto its support, and to continue the natural process of unwinding, of letting go and releasing more and more of those unnecessary contractions and tightenings. And if possible, see if we can be open and receptive and be aware of pleasant sensations arising within ourselves as part of the meditation, feeling of comfort and ease in some parts of the body, although not in others, feeling of relaxation, tingling sensations, interesting sensations. Make all of these objects of mindful awareness as well, as we welcome them into our awareness. So we rest our body in the posture, allow it to continue to unwind, to settle down. We rest awareness, our mind, here and now, and be open to the different sensations, the different experiences happening in this moment, bodily sensations, pleasant feelings. And alongside this, we will also become aware of thoughts, of activities of the mind. You may notice that the mind is still fairly busy, quite a bit of thinking in words or images, could be about the past or the future, some ongoing inner dialogue. Or we may become aware of the mind being of little energy, feeling quite dark, quite dull and heavy, sleepy. Or maybe some of us may notice the mind is fairly quiet and yet at the same time alert, awake, calm and spacious and present. Regardless of what we find in each moment, see if we can, again and again, invite our attention to come back here and now, to open up, be receptive, and become that mindful awareness within which we are aware of bodily sensations, of feelings, and of the mind, as well as the various factors influencing the mind. So I'm going to keep quiet now and allow you to have a few minutes of silent meditation. Okay, so I hope I managed to convey an idea that to be mindful, we don't always need to work very hard. Since mindfulness is a natural ability of ours, we can nurture that natural ability, natural quality, so that first maybe in a more meditative setting, we can train ourselves, like what I have suggest, and you'll find that outside of meditation, our daily life, more and more occasions, we're just spontaneously aware and mindful. Not necessary of important things, can be just minor things, just things that happen, catch our attention, and then we are aware of it. Yeah. But of course, the most important is periodically, as we train in it, we become more aware of what we have covered, mindful of our body, the state of our body, which really tell us a lot of what is actually happening within us. We are mindful of feelings, pleasant feelings as well as unpleasant feelings. Hopefully, we become more in touch with how powerful feelings are in conditioning our reaction, conditioning our behavior. And also, we become in touch with the state of our mind, whether the mind come under the influence of wholesome factors, positive factors, or some unwholesome one. Being in the moment is harder for adults. It's easy for children and animals. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, we can't go back to our childhood, and even if it's harder relatively speaking because of we have as we get older, we are more set in our way. We are conditioned in some of our habits, not all of which are helpful, but we can at any point of time awaken this natural ability of mindfulness. We can cultivate new habits. We can reinforce them, become familiarized with them, and then in time we can see the benefit of this set of new habits, including mindfulness. So that is why we engage in cultivation, in developing and strengthening our mindfulness. Actually, children are not necessary. We have this idea, and a lot of it is this idea of the children always been. They're definitely not always in the present moment. And likewise for animals, if you have pets, you can observe them. Yes, to a greater extent than us, they are less hampered or less hindered by all the ideas and all the expectations that we have. But even children and animals also have other habits, and sometimes because in the case of children, they're younger, they're less matured, and they don't understand as well. And as well as in animals, some of which they are unable to comprehend some of the situation. They suffer also. Suffer when things happen to them. They're not able to understand. They can also get caught up in reactivities and reactions. So regardless of who we are and where we are, we do our best to nurture this natural ability of mindfulness. And today I want to touch on the fourth placement of mindfulness, the fourth foundation of mindfulness, as it is sometimes called. Apart from body, feeling, mind, today we talk about the last one. It's called mindfulness of Dharma, Dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word. It's one of those words that has multiple meanings. The word Dharma, mindful of Dharma. Dharma could generally is referred to the Buddha's teaching, which is the basis of this whole series of talks and practice derived from Buddha's teaching. Mindful of the Buddha's teaching is one way of interpreting the word Dharma. Dharma can also have a more general meaning. It means the truth or the reality of things. The truth of things, the reality. Modern world, the science, the scientific laws is part of circumstances is arbitrary. Okay. So Dharma can refer to that fundamental principle of our reality, or sometimes I just call it the basic facts of our life. something that is generally applicable. And this is another meaning of the word Dharma, and which we can also be mindful of some of the fundamental basic facts of life, that we sometimes we forgot or we choose to ignore or neglect. The fact of change. Everything in our experience is subjected to change. So that is a very fundamental aspect of our life, of our reality, and that is also sometimes the word Dharma sometimes refer to that. And the last meaning of Dharma that is relevant in this context is Dharma can also refer to all the things that we can know, that we can cognize and become aware of. In English, sometimes we call it phenomena, or the various different phenomena, and they are also can in Sanskrit refer to as Dharma, or Dharma in plural. Right? So the word Dharma is Buddha's teaching, basic facts of life, or the different phenomena that we experience. And so you can see that starting from the body to feeling to mind, and now find mindfulness of Dharma, we are coming to probably the broadest, most general category, becoming aware either of mindfully aware of just the various different possible experiences, different objects that we can experience in life, or even be mindful of the basic facts of life, the basic reality of our life. And in the case of Buddha's teaching, become mindful of Buddha's teaching in our day-to-day life, how it is applicable in different situations. Okay, so as we become mindful of this fourth aspect of our experience, what is the aim of this fourth way of placing and applying mindfulness? And that is to uncover the basic reality that we tend to either we neglect or we have misunderstood. Yeah. So, for example, take the fact of change, right? Change. So, just as the comment says, once is random, twice is coincidence, twice is a difficult word for me to pronounce. 3 times is a pattern. Maybe not. Maybe we need to accumulate more. But with mindful awareness, we start to uncover, as it says, the different conditions, whether there is a pattern in something or whether it is random. But we can uncover that if we pay close attention, or we become more aware, more in touch with what is happening in our life. So take the fact of change, which is something that we know, probably intellectually, but we have deeply ingrained habits of neglecting change, or almost as if sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously pretend as if things do not change. As if something were to change, it's such a surprise to us. We don't expect it to change. Now, this change or impermanence, as sometimes we say in Buddhism, in itself, the more mindfully aware we are of it, then the more mindfully aware we are of change, the more we are able to avoid patterns of behavior, habits that are contradictory to that. We have habits of holding on to things, we have habits of expecting things to not change, and then we get really upset when we encounter the reality of change. The more we are aware of it, the more we are able to, through our own experience, affirm the truth of change or impermanence, then the better we are at dealing with it. When we do, we encounter change all the time, but certain changes are more significant or more impactful. And when we encounter those changes or challenges, we are better equipped to deal with it. At least it's less of a shock to us. Okay, so let's do this mindfulness of Dharma in a little bit more systematic way. Traditionally, it's presented first from the point of view of becoming aware of this word phenomena, of the different possible experiences. In the text, there is a few groups of it. Becoming aware of what they call hindrances or meditative hindrances to our meditation, which are different afflictive states of mind. So things like states of mind like anger, which really disturb the peace of our mind in meditation and outside of meditation. Anger, attachment, restlessness, and worry is another category. Downers and lethargy is yet another category, and the last one is doubt, the doubting mind. So these are called the 5 hindrances to meditation, and likewise they are also very disturbing in other contexts. So mindfulness of phenomena include mindfulness of these 5. In what way are we mindful of them? We are mindfully aware when they are present, when they arise, like anger, mindfully aware when anger arises, and also mindfully aware when anger subsides. So the presence of anger and the absence of anger are something that is worthy of being mindfully aware of. So we can also be aware of any of other hindrances. Here it says restlessness, especially during lockdown. It becomes quite significant how a lot of us find lockdown such a torment when we have more limited a lot of constraint on our movements, on our activity, and some people more than others find that quite unbearable. I, on the other hand, find it quite. I'm not wishing for it, but I quite enjoy self-isolation. So anyway, so to be aware of that we are feeling restless, to be aware of the arising of restlessness or worries or anxiety and so forth. Also, just as important, to be mindfully aware of their absence. Oh, I'm not restless. I feel quite at ease, quite comfortable, quite at peace. I'm not anxious. I'm feeling quite settled, quite confident. So to be aware of both the presence and the absence. And why are we invited to be mindfully aware of it? So that we can uncover, most importantly, uncover the conditions that trigger their arisal, and hopefully also the conditions that facilitate their subsiding, their absence or their not arising. And through becoming aware of just this category of phenomena, of hindrances, their presence and absence, the conditions for their arisal, the conditions for their subsiding, or the conditions for their not arising, which of course is the opposite, then we learn something about them. We learn from that we can derive more generalized understanding, some principle that govern their behavior, principles of change or impermanence, principle of conditionality, how these hindrances are conditioned states of mind. So they depend on certain conditions. When the conditions gather, they arise. When the conditions are incomplete or when the conditions fall apart, they subside or they are not triggered. So likewise for hindrances, then there is also a set on the virtuous factor, wholesome factor, like for example, the 7 factors of awakening, including mindfulness, investigation, including factor like concentration and so forth. Take mindfulness. Mindfulness is also a conditioned state. Under certain conditions, we are mindful and we are aware, we are present, and there's also occasions where we are pretty mindless. Right? There's an absence of mindfulness versus a presence of mindfulness. There are conditions that facilitate the arising of mindfulness, and there's also conditions that facilitate the not arising of mindfulness, or us remaining in a state of mindlessness, on autopilot, just basically acting out of our habits, without much consciousness or awareness of what we are doing or what is happening. So here encompass both the good, so-called the good and the bad, and likewise, mindfulness encompass what I would say the holy and the mundane. So phenomena, holiness in the context of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths. Mundane objects, mundane experiences in the context of Buddhism. There are lots of lists of things. One of the lists is called the six sense basis, which means things that we experience through our senses, including the mind, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Anything that we experience now through our senses, these are the ordinary experiences of our life. This is another category, in contrast to the holy category of Four Noble Truths. Another list, yet again, of our mundane, ordinary experiences is a list called the five aggregates, which divides experiences into five heaps, aggregates, the aggregate of forms, which includes sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, the aggregate of feelings. So among the sights and sounds and so forth, some of which are accompanied by pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, or neutral feelings. The third aggregate is called, I usually call it cognition. Some people call it discrimination. This is the part where we apply label, we recognize something, we apply a label, there's a computer, there's a table, there's a chair, this is blue color, there's yellow color, a function of the mind actually. And then we have another aggregate, which is called formations normally. This refers to all the different reactions that we have. Reactions are fewer, anger, jealousy, reactions of loving kindness or compassion. And the last aggregates of consciousness, of awareness. So anyway, this whole big long list I've touched on is another way of looking at it is invite us to be mindful of the good and the bad things in our life, the good aspects and the bad aspects, the holy aspects and the more mundane aspects of our life, the different objects, different experiences, phenomena. Why? Why such a big range? So that as we get a good sense of all these different phenomena, experiences, we can, through mindfully aware of them, affirm certain understanding of the basic facts of life, of the very basic principles that govern all these different happenings. So it's very important for us to be mindfully aware of. For example, the principle of change, the principle of conditionality, and so on and so forth. And this is the aim of the fourth type of mindfulness, to bring us from awareness of the body, the state of our own body, our own feelings, our own mind, to the reality of our life, the basic facts of our life, to awaken us to these basic facts through our own observation, through our own experience, and to affirm them so that we will become less likely to be misled by wrong ideas, wrong ideology, or our own delusions and deluded fantasies. Why the numbers? Why 7 factors? Oh, don't worry too much about numbers. There's nothing holy about it. The Buddha has a tendency to, Buddha said, come upon a way in which human mind works is the way we remember things is in the form of lists, like our grocery lists. Yeah. And so the Buddha identified different lists for different occasions, different things. Some, in fact, there is in the Theravada tradition, Theravada Buddhism, the Buddha's discourses are grouped in different collections. There is a collection of the longer discourses, the middle length, and then there's one collection is by topics, called the connected discourses. They're connected together by way of topics. And there is one collection, a huge one, called numerical collections. And it's a funny way of collecting. These days, we will not index the text in this way. It collects by way of number. Any discourses where the Buddha mentioned one thing comes under chapter 1. The one is many different one. Just one thing, anything. But if it's just one, all comes under chapter 1. A list of 2, which can be of anything, good and bad, wholesome, unwholesome, black and white, or whatever. Anything that has number 2 come under chapter 2, and so on and so forth. And that's why the numbers. So you can have a list of 7 things, 5 things, and 11 things. No, Noble Eightfold Path, there are 8 things. Yeah. So don't worry too much about the numbers. Okay, so mindfulness of Dharma, I like to emphasize is mindfulness first of phenomena, but not just the fact that we are aware of many things, but we want to extract out from there certain general pattern and principles that are relevant to us. That's relevant to our experience of happiness or helping us to overcome suffering. And that is mindfulness of Dharma. So today we're going to so that is just an introduction. In the next 2 sessions, I will go into details. But let's do one meditation to conclude today's session, just to emphasize. Today, I want to direct attention to mindfulness of impermanence, of change in our experience. So in this meditation we're going to do together of mindfulness, I will invite you to make use of the breath sensations as a support. In other words, we invite our attention. One way to think of it is invite our attention to come back to the breath. Another way, like following what we did earlier on, to allow the breath sensations to come into our awareness, to appear in the range of our mindful awareness, so that we are aware of this changing wave-like sensations that we call the breath. One moment is rising, the moment is falling, one moment is expansion, next is contraction. This wave-like undulating sensations of the breath, and allow that to come into awareness and make that a kind of a support for us. When things get a bit confusing and there's all these things happening and we may be lost in thoughts, we invite the breath sensations to come once again prominently into the foreground of our awareness, right? To allow the breath sensations to occupy the important position in our mindful awareness, so that it becomes like a support for us. It helps to ground our attention, helps to free our attention from all the different kind of ruminating thoughts and so forth, and so that our attention is in touch with what is happening here and now. And using the breath as the support, I invite you to notice, to highlight to yourself the reality of change in this meditation. The breath is changing. It's always changing. It's in-breath becomes out-breath, out-breath becomes in-breath. We may start with the breath feeling very short, and very quick, and very shallow, and we find later the breath becomes much slower, or becomes longer, or deeper, or it can change the other way around. Yeah. And also, important things about change is about change is not necessarily bad. It can be towards the better, not necessarily towards the unpleasant. It can actually we can actually shift to something more pleasant. Yeah. Now, instead of the breath, and breath is not. I mean, breath might be my favorite object, but not necessarily yours. And instead of the breath, after all, the breath sensations happen in the body itself, right? I'm just highlighting that we can use the breath sensation as a support. But it doesn't have to be the breath. It can be other sensations, just even other sensations of the body, even the sound in the surrounding, just as we have done earlier on. All those can be supports in this meditation. The feature of all this support, the common feature is they're all happening here and now in this moment. So the moment a sound come into awareness is an invitation, invitation for our full awareness to be present here and now, to be with the sound. Bodily sensations can also serve the same function, inviting our awareness to be here and now, to be with those sensations, and likewise with the breath. Yeah. And as we are present with all these different experiences, including thoughts, memories, images, see if we can just alongside the awareness of all these different phenomena, different experiences, to notice that they are changing. Is there any one experience that stay absolutely unchanging and constant throughout this whole 20 minutes of meditation? Maybe not. No. Maybe we don't know because the mind itself is changing. The focus of our attention, the locus of our attention is changing. One moment we may be with the breath, with the bodily sensations. The next moment, no, these are gone, drop from awareness. All we are aware of are memories or some thoughts or some inner dialogue, that dominate our awareness. So just based on our own experience, is it possible for us to highlight and really notice how changeable all these experiences are, how impermanent they are, and also to not feel that this is necessarily a bad thing. This is, in fact, quite neutral. This is just a fact of life, the reality of this moment. And the more we are open to it, the more we are better equipped to deal with it. Right, so let's do a practice together. So just as before, I invite you to find a suitable meditation posture to settle your body back into that posture, into meditation. Take care that the posture is not creating unnecessary pain or discomfort for you. And to allow the back or spine to be upright if you're sitting in a sitting posture, or take care that the spine is straight if you're lying down on your back. Rest the arms and hands on some kind of physical support so that they're not just dangling in the air, or that you have to contract the shoulder muscles to somehow hold them up. That's not necessary. Just rest your hands and arms on some physical support. Feel free to close your eyes completely if that's more helpful, or if you are used to it. Otherwise, you are also most welcome to leave your eyes open or half open. Take a few moments, allow the body to find its way into this posture, to settle down, and for the body to get the message that it is all right, for it to loosen up a bit, to unwind a bit, to begin the natural process of putting aside unnecessary contractions and tightenings, and so that it can ease up, relax, and really settle down comfortably into the posture. So as I ring the bell, I invite you to switch to a listening mode, open, receptive, present, and allow the sounds to come into your awareness. Alongside the sounds of the bells and the sound of my voice, maybe other sounds in your surrounding can come into your awareness and be noticed. Alongside the sounds in this spacious awareness, you may also become aware of bodily sensations, tension, tightness, discomfort, softness, ease, relaxation. Some of you may highlight the sensations of the breath in particular as a support, if you like. The movements of the breath, the in-breath and the out-breath, sensations of the breath throughout the body in the different parts of the body. All of this can come into awareness. Resting our attention, our awareness here and now, be open, spacious, receptive, welcoming in sounds, bodily sensations, breath sensations in this moment. Let one or more of this be the support. So much so that when we do get lost in thoughts, get caught up in memories or fantasies, or in conversations and judgments, we can find our way back to here and now with the help of sound or breath sensations or other bodily sensations. Rest our awareness in the present moment, here and now. Be open and be aware of sounds, sensations, and even thoughts. Thoughts in the form of words, inner speech, or visual images. And as we be mindfully present in this moment, I also invite you to notice whenever you remember, whenever you are possible, it's possible to notice change, how one thing change into another, one experience give way to another experience, and how pervasive it is for things to be impermanent, to change. Coming back to this moment, maybe my voice is a reminder, inviting attention to be back here and now in this very moment, and be open, receptive, mindful of what is happening here and now. And as we continue to cultivate mindful awareness of the different phenomena that arise within awareness itself, see if we can also highlight, notice, and affirm for ourselves the basic fact of impermanence, of change. So coming back to this moment, allow the sounds in your surrounding, allow your breath or other bodily sensations to invite your attention to come back here and now to your present moment reality. Be back in this moment, being open and aware and present. See if you can, once again, notice the fact of change. The fact that one moment we may be here and now, and the next moment we could be lost in thoughts, attention caught up with thinking, with remembering, with fantasizing. And then yet again, that can change, and we may find ourselves once again back in the present moment. So coming back to the present moment, when we are invited back by sounds, by breath, by other bodily sensations, maybe even by our own thoughts. See if we can notice the shift, the change as the mind toggle between present moment awareness and being lost in thoughts, being caught up in reactivity. And notice how they change. And some change is actually positive, and we can welcome them. And other change we may find harder to be with, more associated with pain, with suffering. And for the last few minutes of this meditation, as we settle back in the here and now, in this present moment, I invite you to become aware, to open the scope of your awareness, to check in and highlight any positive changes you can notice in yourself in this meditation. Highlight those positive changes, maybe an increased sense of relaxation physically. Maybe you notice the arise of pleasant sensations, comforting feelings. Maybe you become more present, more aware. You notice more things. Highlight anything positive, positive changes in your own experience to affirm the basic fact of change, and that change is not necessarily a bad thing. Something good can also come out of change. And then we dedicate all this positive momentum we create through our practice, through our meditation, dedicate it towards the fulfillment of our wishes and aspirations for both ourselves as well as for others. Dedicate that may anything helpful and beneficial to come out of this evening, the practice, the listening, and so forth. May all these positive changes stay with us, somehow linger in body, mind, and heart, so that they can continue to benefit us. Okay, change. And so now the session is over. Thank you very much for your mindful attention. And next week, I'll continue to explore mindfulness of Dharma, mindfulness of phenomena. So I wish you have a good week ahead. Enjoy the nice weather of spring if you're in Sydney. And I hope to see you next week. Good night.